Committee. It's Wednesday, February 14th, 2024. Happy Valentine's Day. Do we have a motion to open our meeting?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'd like to pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Before we start our budget hearings, our town administrator, Mr. Kelly, is just going to give us an update on town finances.
The revenue figures haven't changed at all, but as we go through and we look at some of the expected increases in the budget busters, things like utilities have increased. I'm sure everybody's got their bill at home and seeing a jump in electric and gas rates.
Yeah, it's insane.
And the health insurance and general insurance, I'm budgeting up right now, but we are in discussions with them culminating mid-March to April. But I'm giving worst-case scenario on that in my computations. And then I have no idea what the school's doing yet. There'll be a meeting coming up that staff and others will be discussing the school budget, but between the Acushnet School District and Old Colony Regional preliminary figures, it looks like they're increasing 1.9 million for the two schools for the education budget. And I'm looking at potential increase beyond that of 5 to 6 before we start to cut on the town side, maybe more. But I'm looking right now at a deficit between revenues and budget busters of 1.9 million. As you know, we've been presenting level service budgets before we do any cuts. We want to put all the mandated costs in, costs we can't do anything about, like utilities, and then start to look at where we can cut. And I'd be looking at somewhere between 500,000 and 800,000 cuts potentially on the town operational budget. And
So that still leaves us a deficit realistically of,
$1 million, $1.1 million on the education budget that they should cut.
Question?
Do we have any updates or any more information with regards to the abatement of the mold issue? Where does that stand?
I don't know. The last couple meetings that the school working group scheduled were on Tuesday nights when the Board of Selectmen meet. So the Selectmen representative and myself have not been able to attend those meetings.
We can get that from the school committee. Thank you.
This is by no means anywhere close to a budget yet. This is just very preliminary. But it is bad news, but we know what are the mandated costs. We know what are the costs a number of them we have to pay, and so we just have to look elsewhere. On the town side, that's going to mean salaries, bottom line.
Yeah, the problem is some of the mandated costs have increased so significantly like we've never seen before. I mean, I've been doing this 18 years now, and this is the worst I've seen going into the budget season right now.
Well, that and the fact that you had a Chapter 70 increase of only half of 1%. You had a 3% increase on the unrestricted government aid. And admittedly, we are looking at our local receipts conservatively, but right now, other than the billing that'll have to go out for new cars in a month, our excise tax billing is right where our estimate was. So if there's not a lot of new cars been bought, then that's not going to move. As much, it might help this year if we have an increase in fees, receipts, or in investments. But I want to stress to this committee that it's a one-time, like a number of the financial fixes we've done over the last year and the collections of unpaid taxes. It's a one-time fix.
Mhm.
And you've got an operational budget that's substantially out of, you're not going to be able to continue with this budget with the revenue sources you have.
It's unsustainable.
Yeah.
Well, we've had that conversation for the last 2 years.
Yeah, we've been
Many
saying that.
years.
We
over
said,
and
yeah,
over.
Yeah, a lot of the rabbits have already been pulled out of the hat.
but we knew this 2 years ago, that given the path that we were on, we were being short-sighted and only focusing on an annual, and we weren't thinking at least 2, 3, 4 years out. So this is not a surprise, because we called this a few years ago. The growth was not sustainable.
Yeah,
The
and,
increase in expenses was not sustainable.
and the hens came home to roost as far as the COVID money
Gone.
not being there
Mhm.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
they're not gonna keep printing money. I
the
hope.
departments that use the COVID funds for a regular annual expense and salaries and positions when they shouldn't have, they're the ones that are gonna be cutting.
I think the bottom line is, we don't wanna get into the issue, the pattern of where we're gonna have to ask our town residents for a tax override to fund our operational budget. There's no way, I know our finance committee does not want that. We would never approve that, because once you do it once, guess what? They're gonna expect it over and over again, some departments. And it's gonna be like, that's not gonna happen. There's no way, we can't ask our residents that. What's the per capita income in this town? Is it 40,
It's,
50?
Used to
the
be
figures
55,
from
60.
DLS were, per capita income was 38 to 39,000.
All right, so we have a lot of older folks on fixed incomes.
And I think the per capita EQV was, the per capita income was 2020, the per capita EQV was 2022, and that was around, I think, 154,000. So you're somewhere, as far as per capita income, around 120 from the bottom of all the towns, and you're similar place with the EQV per capita.
I mean, between property taxes increasing significantly over the past several years, utilities for everybody, all insurances, you name it, homeowners insurance, car insurance, everything has gone up dramatically, right? There's no way we can throw that out on residents. So spending is gonna be curbed big time.
And you've got the potential of a debt exclusion for the Old Colony Votech, either expansion or new building, and you might have $1 million to $1.5 million, or 500,000 to $1.5 million on the HVAC system in your own, in the Acushnet School District. So debt exclusions, as you know, allow that expense to be put on top of taxation, but it goes away when the debt is paid. Overrides never go away.
Right.
No, so Sue pulled up the median household income, it's about 88,000.
88,000 per capita is 44,000. Persons in poverty in Acushnet at 6.4%.
And that's 2023.
These are 2022 numbers.
Okay, because 2020, it was like 39,000, so it's
per capita.
It hasn't even gone up the way it should be with
Inflation.
Inflation.
Yep.
And admittedly, I'm giving you level service budgets because I am looking at, once we get everything in from both schools and all the departments, then the hard decisions have to be made.
And with the Old Colony, right, we need to break that out between increase because of expenses have gone up versus the number of kids, because the number of kids attending Old Colony has increased. So.
Well, it looks like, just with the preliminary view of the school budget, the Acushnet district, that Fairhaven and Fairhaven sped has gone down.
Okay.
Which is all part of our own school budget.
But, so that means, if I'm correct, and don't hold me to it, I'd say 400 plus thousand.
Which now puts that 1.2
At
that we're looking
1.6.
at from school at even more ridiculous numbers, because 400,000 of their budget from last year is gone this year due to a decrease in students going to Fairhaven. So
I don't know if there's an uptick in New Bedford or if it's all going to Old Colony or elsewhere, school choice.
But that huge amount of deficit that we have right now, I know you're talking about presenting level funding budgets, but the department's got to be expecting now it's not going to be level funding of service, because we just can't afford level funding of service.
Well, what we've got to do is level fund all the budgets and then sit there and look at
Right.
across the board energy costs. We're stuck with that. Across the board benefit costs, like the bill from Bristol County, we're stuck with that. So once everything's in, both school and town, then you've got to build the budget back
Yeah.
from that base.
Mm-hmm.
All set, Jamie?
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna get into our budget hearings. First is gonna be Chad Leclerc from our park department.
And recreation.
And rec, yes.
No
Welcome,
more
Chad.
recreation, just park now.
Just park? Oh, thank goodness. That's a tough act to follow there, now all that doom and gloom we just talked about.
We're gonna try and keep it real.
Yeah, no kidding, right? So thank you for this evening. So I was really looking at two different line items. The first has already been addressed, which is energy. That's under recreation, so that's kind of already been addressed this evening with what's on the budget. And while it's not listed here, because it's still in some discussion, is under park, our permanent position salary. We've been having some discussion with the schools because we are now cutting the grass behind the schools for the soccer league. So that takes my full-time worker, and he cuts the grass there 1 to 2 times a week, depending on what time of year it is. My understanding is that the soccer league pays the school a certain amount to utilize the fields. So we're kind of in discussions to hopefully see if we can get a little of that to pay for the time it costs us to cut the grass.
Question, do we know who cut the grass before the park department?
Yes, it was actually Steve from the golf course. He was doing it as a volunteer. He did it for like the first year, I think. But it's just too much volunteering to do that many times and so forth. So the equipment's there. The soccer league maintains the equipment, but we have the key to the garage and we're able to cut the fields, which, I mean, the kids benefit from it. They use it during the school year. But I know, like I said, soccer put a lot of money into those fields and it still are. So, like I said, they're putting some money towards the school system for basically like renting it. So we're looking for a little bit of an increase in salary, but until we figure out if we can get some from that fund, obviously not gonna request anything at this point for it, but.
School's expenses, transfer it over.
The park department stepped up and to keep the soccer program going. But in this time of devastating
Tightening of the belts.
tightening of the belt, it would be, we think if there is a fee going in for use, maybe we should review the fee, number one, to see if it justifies all the expenses. And if it does, then maybe it should be divided between the people doing the work and the people who are, have oversight of the fields.
So,
But it, oh, sorry.
sorry, go ahead.
No, and I think, but we need to keep in mind, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that the soccer league has also paid for like,
The fence, irrigation.
the
they pay
fence, the
water bill.
irrigation, all of that. So I don't know that you charge them a fee for using a soccer field that has a fence and irrigation system and all of that, because they're the ones that paid for it, right? So,
That's been the, kind of some of the debate, but I guess
Right.
they're,
That might be something to ask the council.
I guess them just, it's kind of usage of their property, I guess, is part of it, which I get.
you mean town property?
Well, town property, right, yes. But I guess that's where it goes, and it was helping, but with them, like I said, without them cutting the grass.
Right, right.
If they weren't using the fields at all, and they were saying just soccer can use it, and the schools can't, but I believe they use it for the intramural soccer program, they do use it for recess
Yeah.
and gym and so forth, so.
Well, and that's my question. If you weren't cutting the grass, if golf wasn't cutting the grass anymore.
Well, then it became the maintenance from the school does, but he, I mean, I didn't see it, but the machine that he was using and how he was cutting it was just making a mess of the fields.
Okay.
You've got to, I mean, he doesn't have the time, my understanding, so he just tries to do it, but during the main parts of the year, we have to cut it twice just to keep all the grass off, all the dead grass on the field. It just looks crummy, you know, so.
So I'm just asking, I mean, the grass needs to get cut.
Yeah, exactly.
It moved from a school budget a few years ago to golf volunteering to do it 1 year.
No, I don't think it was in the, I don't think.
Well, if it was their maintenance guy cutting the grass, he was getting paid out of the school budget,
No.
Technically, I guess, right?
right? Is their maintenance guy that's on their budget
Yeah.
was covering it. So it went from the school's budget to golf volunteering 1 year to you guys doing it the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I think when the soccer league or the soccer organization fixed up the field so they could play soccer, then Mr. Tibble stepped in. I'm not sure that what happened prior, but
It had to have been cut.
Well,
It
prior
wasn't
was
an
being
overall
cut,
field.
but I'll be honest, my kids were involved in the soccer league back then. And before they put irrigation and did all that, I mean, it was playing on weeds
It was
for,
dirt.
and dirt.
It was
And
dirt. My
dirt,
son
right, yes,
played there, too.
exactly. And then they obviously put the irrigation, now it needs to be cut, but I mean, now the fields look great. So, yeah, it was just normal cutting to go along with everything else, whatever, whenever it could get done. So, and I know that they have, I mean, I don't even know how it got done because we have to cut it before like 8 AM. And we can't go too early because the neighbors complain we're there too early and we have to, and, you know, obviously at night. So we have limited time because they stop playing soccer after schools at a certain time. They don't want us to cut it when they're in school because it's a distraction. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So we're trying to fit that in too, so.
But we certainly appreciate you doing it as a town.
Yeah. But that's it on my end.
Anybody else have any questions for Chad? Yeah, I mean, the only thing out of your control is the energy line.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. And, you know, unfortunately, we're at the mercy of policies set forth by our federal government, so
Yeah.
there's no shocker in seeing a big increase there, so.
No.
so the committee knows there have been some upgrades that have been paid for through grants and through other articles, et cetera, correct? That the Park and Rec Department has been pinching pennies to make sure that the facilities are upgraded and that money is taken from other places, security is increased, et cetera, so.
We've got our new camera system. I mean, I think the other expense, I know it's minor, but we put, part of the reason for salaries too was we, not just the not just the soccer fields, but we do take care of the veterans area. And especially in the fall, when we have, usually try to cut our hours, we usually have all the, you know, the Veterans Days and so forth, and that's when we get all the leaves all over the place, so always trying to keep those up to, you know, clean. We could wait till the spring, but then we just, it doesn't look presentable when we go out there and have a bunch of people in town gather there. So, I mean, trying to maintain that as well. I know it is part of the park, but it's, if it was just an open field, we wouldn't care so much about it. It's a veterans area, so we do take pride in that area and make sure we maintain it. So that puts a little stress on the hours too, so.
Well, plus you've had the increased focus on Pope Park too, right, with everything that you did last year?
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, it was needed, it was getting destroyed without it, so.
yeah, and then, like I said, we got a lot more cameras put in and so forth, so.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a great addition last year.
And Chad is also the chair of the CPC, and we've looked at funds from the CPC to increase the capabilities of the parks.
Trying to make some expansion on it too, but gotta get a surveyor to be able to survey first before we can do some of the stuff that we wanna do, so.
Chad, thank you for coming out tonight. If we have any questions, we'll reach out.
All right, well, thanks.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Ted.
Thanks, Chad.
Have a great night.
You too.
Okay, next up is Ryan Resendes from Conservation.
Hey folks,
Welcome.
How you doing?
Brian Zedis, Chairman Conservation. We're proposing 100% level funded budget. There's not much to it really, just agent, clerk. I don't have the list in front of me, but maybe some training and then utilities.
No surprise on that one.
Yeah, it's only increased by like $500.
It's contractual on the salary for clerical.
Yep.
Actually, energy is the same,
Yeah.
200. It's so minor, I'm assuming that's why we didn't adjust.
Well, this is an easy one.
Yep.
I don't think we're gonna have a lot of questions.
Tonight.
And please keep the agent so they can present the budget next year.
Does anybody have any questions for Ryan while he's here?
Nope.
Okay, Ryan, thank you for coming in.
All right, thanks guys,
All
thanks
right.
for doing what you do.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Same mood.
Okay, next up is our new Director of the Council on Aging, Lauren Golda. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you. Mr. Kelly, did you want me to swear?
Introduce yourself.
I'm Lauren.
Tell them your background.
So I'm coming from a background with case management with Cosign Elderly, some healthcare management with Compass Medical in Taunton, and also with Lifestream.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you, thank you.
The only real increase is the energy, the,
We've got it almost doubled the energy this year. What are we doing that brought that big of an increase on it?
that's the price that's coming in.
Yeah, the
So our
electric
energy
rates have
costs
like
are really,
doubled.
they're
The
almost
electric
100%
rates have
up.
like doubled.
Yeah.
I mean, when I
We're in
see my own electric bill.
negotiations to see if we can discuss the rate. But it'll be, it's negotiations townwide. We've also taken Nick's behest, he's the one who was spearheading this. We're taking all accounts and putting them under one umbrella when we do this.
Jamie, are all the, like, town buildings, are they all under that Constellation CEA group? Like I
We've
think
moved-
most of us
we've
are for
moved-
residents.
We've moved the electric and now we've moved the gas.
So they're the supplier.
Yeah, and we're in negotiations right now on the rate.
Are there other?
I'm giving you the worst case scenario
Are there
on the
cheaper
rate.
suppliers out there?
Pardon?
Are there cheaper suppliers out there than what we
I
have now?
don't want to answer that right now as we're in the middle of negotiations, but I'm giving you the worst case scenario right now.
I'm just saying, I'm just.
I know that for residential users, they're one of the better rates. Eversource, National Grid, et cetera, are higher.
Yeah, because I was, as a resident, I was going to be making that phone call myself for my own home bill to try and see if there's any better, cheaper suppliers out there, because the rate is just insane right now.
I got my bill, I
Yeah,
thought it was crazy. When I pay more to get the energy to my house than I do for the energy.
I mean, it's wintertime. I mean, summertime, people have like AC running, pool filters. None of that stuff is running right now. And I'm like looking at this, and I'm like, this is outrageous.
And even though it's a substantial increase now, it's a 30-month, correct?
36.
Yeah. So it's, hopefully it'll even out, because we're seeing a lot of the major other providers are higher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the Constellation is pretty much the lowest.
Well, that's pretty sad if that's the lowest. Right
It
now.
was like 11 cents or something like that. I think it went up to, 19? And everybody's still higher than that. So,
Has anyone looked, is there any benefit to solar panels on municipal buildings or
I
anything?
didn't mention that last year, I think.
Really?
I think so.
I mean, I thought there was talks too about a covered parking area and all solar for
At
the
the
schools.
school,
Yeah.
the problem with, that's still a possibility, but until you get connectivity,
Still a possibility. Didn't they get funded for it?
I'm saying it's still a possibility, but we're in the queue for connectivity.
Oh, okay.
I think
But-
the school is still working out details with the company that's supposed to be
Yeah,
doing
the-
that.
They even looked at it at the golf course over the parking lot.
Yeah, the company that's dealing with the schools cannot get connectivity to Eversource. They're in the queue, but Eversource doesn't have the capability to connect all these solar arrays that are being built right now. And that's why they're upgrading.
So that's the old, we put the cart before the horse.
But we did.
Well, at least we're in the queue. They're telling a lot of other folks that they won't even put them in the queue yet.
Yeah, because she's got the perfect parking lot for a canopy kind of situation. And even the roof space. I mean, the
It's
roof
just,
space.
in general, just,
Yeah.
look, they've been jamming down our throats, this whole electric thing,
Yeah.
but we don't have the infrastructure in place to support it.
All the new homes.
even
are
close.
All electric now, no gas.
Not even close. They moved everything to heat pumps. They couldn't support that, never mind the vehicles.
Well, why do we have to sit there and tie into the grid? Why don't you sit there and put solar panels just to provide the power for the building? Why can't we just do that? Why do we have to tie into the system?
Because if we tie into the system, the solar panels get paid by the company that's tying into the system instead of paying out of pocket
I think they
initially.
get credits, it's wattage usage going onto the grid. It's payback, reimbursement.
Okay, so back to the council on aging budget. So the only
sorry.
increase is really the energy.
We go off on tangents like
Sorry about
that.
Oh, you're still here, sorry.
Welcome aboard.
Please don't take that personally.
So it's a lot of pent-up frustration.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the only increase is energy, which is out of their control, so.
Right.
Does anybody have any questions for Lauren while she's here?
Welcome.
Thank you.
No question.
Week and a half in, so I'm just getting my feet wet, but
Well,
Thank you.
welcome aboard. Things will
Thank you.
calm, things will settle down and get calmer, hopefully. We just all have to think positive and have faith, right?
yes.
Okay, if we have any questions, we'll reach out to you.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is our library department director, Elizabeth Patello. Welcome.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Ain't not bad.
Is this your first time?
You're welcome. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, yes. Thank you. Hi, how are you? You're welcome. Michelle, you're welcome.
Gee, I've seen this before.
Might be a different color.
Yeah.
So I'm Elizabeth Patello. I am the library director here in Acushnet. Our budget request is very similar to everyone else's. It is simply level service, and our biggest increase is, as anyone else is going to come up here and say, is in energy. So our line for energy went up double. And to go back to salaries before I jump into anything else, so the director and the patient services supervisor remains the same. Library techs and the children's room assistant is just taken, in fact, for COLA, work anniversaries, and that's why you see that increase there. And in longevity, because of the departure of the previous director, that simply went down because I just started. So, but we do have a staff member who will be receiving it, but it's not nearly enough as well. The previous director was receiving as longevity. As for expenditures, everything is simply the same, except I just transferred some items. So for travel, currently we have $1,000. I would like to transfer $500 into buildings and grounds. Our building is feeling its age. I feel like since I've been there, all I've been doing is paying for maintenance fees, plumbing fees, you name it. Everything seems to be deteriorating. So I would like to put that $500 because I don't see myself traveling to any conferences. Everything is on Zoom nowadays. If I do travel, it would be to
It's nice to hear that. That's such that's refreshing.
to a local library in the network. So our network reaches all the way from Seacock to Wareham, all the way up to Foxborough. So I'm not going that far. So that's that for travel.
So no plane tickets or hotel.
Oh, God, no.
Say
No.
to San Diego or something. Yeah.
I can do it if you want. I think the ALA conference is in Cincinnati, so it's like, eh. Office equipment, I would like to remove the current 500 and split that into half. So 250 to be added into office equipment. Our office equipment is what equipment the staff uses and what patrons use. So we do have a very popular copy machine. So, ink, paper, and we also have a fax machine that is used quite frequently. I don't know if we're the only place who has fax in the town, but we get a lot of use out of it. So, and it works. And so that would just include those the office equipment fund would just include the equipment and supplies for it. And, because it gets used a lot, it might break down, it might need some maintenance and so forth. Tech support is our contractual agreement with our sales network, and that's for tech support for the computers we have through them and for the program we use to the library management software. And support through a gentleman who does come down and fix things if we are in need. Telephone remains the same.
Aren't you on the town system now?
We are for the network. So when so the
You don't
fiber
have the town phones yet?
we do. So the tech for sales is for, so we have a printing management software on our computers that speak to a staff computer that gets you, a staff member has to release the print job for a patron printing. So
No, I'm talking about the phones.
the phone?
The phone service.
We are on the thing. So, sorry about that. So the phones, because our fax
Right.
machine,
Yeah, the fact. Because
the fax, we still have two lines. For AT&T and Verizon, one local and one long distance.
so
So we
because
can't do an IP over, fax over IP situation?
the digital fax doesn't work as well at the library because of the clientele, it's a lot easier to go in and kind of just punch in versus
Okay.
like, hey, I need
Because
to,
it's
you need to
an
scan
email
this as a
type thing.
PDF, then send it through an email, like easier access.
Customer service.
I prefer the good old push the buttons as
We,
well.
Those are slowly going away,
The
unfortunately.
noise and
User-friendly.
we still have all that.
Everybody that comes in to town hall looking
We send them over there.
for a fax, we send them to the library.
And I will say, we're much cheaper than Staples. People always compliment, wow. People have said, I've wasted $20 faxing 5 sheets and, we're
20.
Oh yes. And our printing, people do print, emergency or anything, they will think of the library, which is really great. And, it's 10 cents black and white, 25 for a color page. So it's still a good deal. The sales expense is a contractual item that we pay in to belong to the sales network, which is, as a small library, that is our heart and soul. We need to be part of a network because our collection is what we have, and if we didn't belong to a network, Acushnet residents would just be restricted to what we have. But we can borrow from all 70 libraries plus the state. So we could get any book that you would like. If we don't have it in that network, we can go to the Boston Public Library and try to get that as an interlibrary loan. And that sales also includes support through the executive assistant there and any other support that we need. Office supplies is the same, and I just realized I screwed up. So office equipment and office supplies, it's important to have those two items because of what we do as a service to the public. So faxing and printing and, in the office supplies can also include our flyers that we post. So that includes ink, paper, and anything else that gets the word out about our library programs. Children's supplies remains the same. That's just what we use to purchase items for children's programming. Materials also remains the same, but that's a good, that's, you know, what a library is. It's a place to borrow items, as opposed, you know, it also is a community center, but our materials are what people are coming to receive. And that leads me to the year in review. So this is just a quick snapshot of 2023. As you know, everyone's tightening their belts, and a place where you can receive items for free, borrow anything, borrow museum passes for discounts to a certain local museum or a museum in Boston is vital to the community, where everyone is struggling to maintain sanity when things are really tight. And I just want to highlight that we had roughly almost 82,000 items checked out last year. And we're a small, you know, a little bit over 10,000 residents in town. Our study room usage has increased by 62%. As I left right now, both study rooms were being occupied by 2 different patrons. Computer sessions, people who need to come use the computer, even if it's not for printing, they need to do research on something or apply for a job, that went up 24% last year. On average, we receive about 80 people a day. During the different time of the year, it could be higher or lower. And we offered roughly 172 programs last year. And 3,380 people attended these programs. And right now, we have 3,701 active members who have active cards in Acushnet. And before I end, I just want to make note of, as a public library, we have a item that we have to maintain. So the MAR, Municipality Appropriation Requirement, is a Massachusetts general law that over 3 fiscal years, the average has to be increased by 2.25. 2.50. So this year, we have to make sure that we have a MAR of $297 and $141. If we don't meet this MAR, that means trouble for the library now and in the future. We could lose state aid, which is funding for the state. We could lose accreditation, which is absolutely terrible. That just basically what happens is patrons of Acushnet will no longer be able to borrow from another library. They're just restricted to our library and our small collection. Not that there's anything wrong with a small collection, but it's just what's there is there. So it's just keep in mind when you think of the library that we do need to meet this MAR, and every year it does increase. And this year for FY, it's that figure, what we have. Any questions? Yes.
First of all, I just want to say I think that the library is one of our greatest underutilized resources in the town.
Thank you.
And I thank you for everything that you've done. I know we've made great strides the last few years and what we're able to offer to our residents.
Yes.
You've got the numbers down, like the program attendees and active card holders, and it's a straight number. How does that compare to prior years? Are we growing with its usage other than the couple of numbers that you put up? Do we know?
Everything is, 2019 was our golden year. I did work at Acushnet at the library in 2019, but as a part-time. And that is the year of the golden, like, it was the best year we've ever had in the library. We are close, but not there yet.
Okay.
We are definitely better than the previous years, but so between 2020, when COVID happened, until 2022. So we are on the uptick. There's been some turnover last year, so our children's room programs were down because we didn't have a children's librarian, and we hired someone in September, so that you will see now in the statistics, programming and attendance and story time has gone up again. Our circulation numbers, they're steady. What has decreased is DVD usage.
Shocker.
Streaming services, Disney Plus, you name it, everything. So like when Disney Plus came out, nobody was borrowing the children's rooms DVDs because at the time you could only watch Disney films either on VHS or on a DVD. But now that happened, the numbers went down. Not that they don't circulate, but they don't circulate like they used to. And the same thing for regular DVDs.
So overall usage from last year, we're seeing an increase, more residents are taking advantage of it?
Residents and out of town residents. So our biggest resident, our second biggest circulation is to New Bedford residents. We're right on the border, right at the bottom of Nice Lane. So we have, and also when the state does their state aid, they look at that number, and our number is always really high. That we have a lot of patrons borrowing from out of Acushnet. And, with the programming we have and the summer concerts and so forth, we have people come from all over the area to the library. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's good in the eyes of, you're lending or they're borrowing your items. They're coming from outside of their home network.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody have any questions for Elizabeth while she's here?
You guys do a great job.
Elizabeth, thank you
Thank you
for
so much.
presenting a
Thank you.
nice fiscally responsible budget and giving us the 3 different budget scenarios. That's much appreciated. If we have any questions, we'll reach out to you.
Sure thing.
Okay?
All right.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Jen, do you want to say anything?
No, I don't think so, unless anyone has any questions for me, I think I'm good, I was just here for moral support, hand out the handouts.
Well, thanks for coming in, ladies.
Thank
The
you.
handouts were very helpful.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is old business. Anyone have any old business they'd like to discuss? New business? Okay. Next meeting date is going to be February 28th. We're not meeting next week, it's school vacation week. So on the 28th, we'll be meeting with the planning board, building department, golf, and that's it. Because we met with conservation tonight. I guess that wraps up this meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned.